about this too a little bit, and I do want to make sure I bring it up. There are people out there that are operating and functioning that may not see themselves as having a problem, or they pass
Mm-hmm.
judgment, or and I know that you had mentioned when you started talking about this, in that when you are a lead, did you call it a lead when you lead the group? um
Yeah, I lead in things. Yeah.
that you get up and stand there, and people are like, because I mean, there's no denying it. You're stunningly beautiful, but people pass. What? How can I relate to her? What's her story? And
Mm-hmm.
to me, that's when you really have the work of God. In that, when that happened to you, I feel like you said, he kind of said, "Well, let's go," and he's like, "I'm not done with you yet." And
Yeah, and when I was like really like in the beginning of my recovery and everything, I would ask like what's my purpose, because I would be confused because I didn't feel like I was like deserving of it. And um somebody at church told me like I think it's in Second Corinthians where the Bible verse says God will use your weaknesses
yep.
to help others come out of their own situation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only reason why like I do what I do. Like I don't like talking about my past. It brings up some like feelings that
Mm-hmm.
that I'm not proud of still and I still struggle with. But I know I'm not the only one. And if I can help one person
Yep.
to be like, dang, that's my story, or I can really relate.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it takes, because most people's not going to relate to this. Most people's not going to be like, oh, I had good parents. I wasn't never in foster care. I never did drugs. I never, was overdosed. And most people won't. Maybe I can shed some light and some understanding so they will understand. Like, it's just not we pick up to be like, I aspire one day to be a drug addict. We don't do that. It doesn't
Right.
happen like that. It's a progressive disease, and but most importantly, I just want to help the next alcoholic and addict know that it doesn't stop. You're not going to be, you don't have to live in that past. You don't have to be your your old self. You can do whatever you want to do. You just have to work at it a little bit.
And the thing is too is, it's like that past is what was my past, the shoulda coulda wouldas, was what was suffocating me at one point. And I made a decision, you know okay, you can visit it, but you just, you can drop in and visit, but just don't stay there too long. Maybe a cup of coffee, take a look around, learn from your past, but move on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Because at this point in time, that's not who I am anymore. Like I can't live in the past. If I live in the past, I'm gonna be sad all the time. I'm gonna be depressed. I'm gonna be, like holding on to all that stuff. Like God's forgiven me, and I've forgiven myself, and like anybody can forgive themselves. Like if God can forgive you, then you surely can forgive yourself. He's the ultimate being. So if he can, and it doesn't matter. Some people will forgive you, some people won't, but God has forgiven you. And that's what I keep in the forefront of my mind always when I get into especially dealing with my kids, like being missing them, or
mhm.
not being like so present in their life like I want to be. Like you know God's forgiven you. There's always a time and a place. Keep on doing what you're doing. Just keep on doing what you're doing. And that's what keeps me motivated.
Well, and that's where this story comes full circle, because
Mhm.
that's what's exciting to me. When I
Mhm.
talk about God, or when you do, a lot of people think that's lip service. And they're like, I don't get it. I don't feel God. I don't know God. I don't. And, the thing is that if your life is going pretty darn good, I told you, I went outside. I took my dog Tanner out before the show, and now I'm going to get choked up. But I thanked him. And when I started this show, Tyia, 3 years ago, I said, if I have one person that can be inspired or, touched by what I might say, that's the goal. And but before a show, we talked about nerves. I have yes, I have word art in my home. Don't judge me. And it says, every day do something that takes your breath away. Every time I sit down in front of this microphone, it sort of takes my breath away. And sometimes I'll sit down to start talking about one thing, and then I get to a different topic. And the reason why is I believe in those spirits and God directing me. And, I live it and I breathe it. And I have real shitty days. Really days when I really have to push myself. Because if I allow that. But here's what I'm coming full circle with. What I want the listeners to know is that we achieve and we get places and we get out of sadness or depression by doing things. I always tell people the first thing that you can do to get out of a rut, a depression, whatever situation, help someone else. So look what God did. He picked you up, dusted you off, and now look at you. You are working, loving, worshiping, running a business. You have love in your life. And the biggest thing that you can do for your kids, you never know, Tyia, the example that God wants to use you to do. It may be that the way that this was laid out is so that, and it's hard. I can't imagine. And I know this sounds really stupid and gross to say, but I cannot imagine what you've been through. I cannot. But what we've talked about is the ingredients to your soul. And without
that's the makeup of who I am today.
Who you are. Yeah. And so every time that you are out there, and now we're on this show and it'll get shared and we're talking about all these things, but you have these meetings and now you're leading people. You know who else you're leading is that family you were talking about, because they're in my chat telling me how proud they are of you. Your aunt, your cousin. You are
pretty amazing.
You're an example. You're a walking, talking billboard for success, for God, and I know you have bad days too. So I understand that, or moments. And I appreciate you. I appreciate you visiting your past for a minute, having a cup of coffee, but I got to go. You got things to do. You and I are talking about the future and what you can do. And I love how that works. And those tears, that's human. I mean, we can't fight that when it happens to us, because that's what sets us apart as human beings.
Absolutely.
From other species. We cry, we bleed, and we hurt. I know that you have a great support system. What I want to do is that I hope that listeners will hear this and realize you can't do it alone. You need a good network. You need a good support system. And that, again, Tia's on Instagram. She's on Facebook. Private message her. I encourage you to do that because, I mean, you can email me. You can private message me, and I'll make sure that you get in touch with her because I wouldn't be a person that would have the expertise. You are now like if there was a degree for experience to be able to help others, you're it. It don't get any better than that. It doesn't. And somebody like myself says, well, I didn't go through that, but I'm inspired by you. You make me want to do better. You have now inspired me to want to work harder and do better. How about that?
Amen. Thank you. That's what I'm here for.
Well,
that's so crazy. It always, it always feels so long. Like nobody would ever say that. They'd be like, I don't want to be like you. You're a mess. You need to get it together. For to hear it, like, and this is again, like why I do stuff like for people like that I want to help people. And if my story, like no matter how hard it is, if I can help somebody, that's what I want to do. Because I don't.
Oops. Did I lose you?
Something.
Oh, it kind of cut out. Here's the thing. You're not just doing the lashes and the brows. That is so intimate. And I know that you're talking, they're listening, they're seeing. It's not, it's that big leap of big leap of faith that we take. Like how we're, our confidence level. And you went from, telling is it your boyfriend that you were scared? Yeah, you're telling him you're scared, you don't want, and he's like, will you just do it?
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's how we find out. And that's what I'm talking about as far as an example. And doing is so much more. You should see, I'm a writer. I have notebooks of repetition. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. I want to write it. This is the only thing I ever, when I was little, I pretended, first of all, I wrote all the time. And I pretended to either teach or that I have my own radio show. So this isn't new. I have wanted to do this since I knew what the radio was. And finally I just said, actually it's the gift of when I met my boyfriend and I told him it was my dream. And it was about the third or fourth week and he walked in with a microphone. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I didn't know him before. I'd only known him a month or so. And I've been doing this show since October 18th. And 3 years ago, 2018. But the only way we're going to, because I took a big pause this year on doing the show. And my confidence was down. And I just, they say it's like getting up and riding a bike again, I started it again, not knowing who it would touch, reach, it was doing it. So I encourage people that if they feel like they need to message you, talk to you, whatever, to reach out to you, that is the first step in doing something. I'm getting messages from Diane. She's saying that you're an inspiration to us all, whether we walk her walk or not.
She's so perfect.
I know. Now you know how I know her, right? I went to school with her.
No.
Yeah, I went to school with her.
Oh,
I've known her almost all my life. I mean, we've,
Oh.
And Facebook that's the beauty of Facebook. There's a lot of negative about Facebook. I say it's the death of us or the best of us. But it has connected so many of those people. And when you're thinking of those people that you knew and you made an impression on their life when you were so little, You know, we were just young kids in school. And now here we are. And that's why I'm talking. She put us